Tory, guys. What do you think?
Well, I was just about to say, Chris, I was talking to my wife about this the other night.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't quite understand, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you guys disagree. So the man was a mayor, okay? And all intents and purposes, he was, I don't know. I actually didn't know a whole lot about John Tory, but didn't seem to be that good or that bad. He was just like the mayor, not that controversial, not like a Rob Ford type. He was just the mayor
Yeah, man.
So it's like all of a sudden he had this affair, and then it seemed to me that the public reaction is like, you're no longer qualified to govern.
Yeah.
So today I saw a video where people were egging his window, and I'm like, okay, obviously there's a loss of trust, I guess, because, I don't know if he promised in his electoral speech, I'll never cheat on somebody. But what I don't get is why people think that his ability to zone a commercial or residential area is impaired by the fact that he had an affair. Right. So he had a personal affair. My thing that I don't quite get, they're egging his office today. There's a video of him behind glass, and they're literally egging. I'm like,
wow.
Why would you be that upset that a guy had an affair? Okay, is it bad to have an affair? Yes. But how does that impact your ability to govern? Obviously, there's a loss of trust, and it's going to make you unelectable and all that stuff. And I get that he has to leave office. But the reaction that I saw was you've lost your ability to zone a residential area or create a highway into the city. I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, I mean, to that, I think absolutely. I think that's kind of one of the first questions that people ask. They're like, "Oh, he's resigning," and to that, I don't think it was the public that pushed him to do that. I think it came out as in not the news came out, and then the decision for him to resign came out. The decision was for him to resign from the onset. So, I mean, I think there's lots of things we may never know that actually happened in the background that prompted that decision. But I think it's more so he knew that there would be potential public backlash that would call for him to resign, and he chose to do it to kind of step aside respectfully before being called out by the public. And I think, no, it doesn't necessarily change his ability to properly govern, but it does lose trust in your family or your constituents, and I think that's kind of the reason why he chose to do it. So I don't know. I think it was a respectful choice, but absolutely, who is our next mayor? That's the big question, right?
Do you think, though, that, the strong mayor powers, so apparently he stayed on. So he resigned. Nobody forced him out. He said, I'm going to resign. But the strong mayor powers, I think that's probably where people were egging his house because they were saying, okay, so you resign, but you stay on to push through your budget, and then you resign. So now the new mayor is stuck with your $16 billion budget that you just passed through. Do you think if he were, where maybe some of the anger is that, okay, if you're going to resign, then resign, let the budget process go through with someone else at the helm. Although I think you did all that work.
What
kind of feel
what does his affair have to do with a budget that he probably spent, him and his, whatever the municipal version of a cabinet is, and his top councilors, they've all achieved that via consensus. The budget is going to be passed. It's not like it's just John Tory's budget. Right. You got to govern with the councilors.
I think it's that he knew that he would resign, and he stayed on until he could pass the budget and then be peace out. Versus saying before the budget process started, hey, I should really come out with this. Maybe that's perhaps part of why some people are angry.
I don't understand the lack of trust. Why is there a lack of trust? I separate those lines, personal life and public life. Why is that, a citizen of Toronto feels like they have a lack of trust in John Tory because of that? He's not done anything in public life.
Didn't take a bribe.
He didn't take a bribe.
Yeah.
So that's something I don't fully get.
And egging the man's house, or it wasn't his house. So I think he was in an office because they had footage, but whatever it was, it's I was. But I'm like, well, these days, it's a waste of protein too. But to be that passionate about John Tory,
I know.
His affair, that you would actually go egg him.
Yeah.
What am I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. What am I missing?
Yeah.
There's something deeper going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, to Chris's point, I think the egging comes from, potentially the disingenuous nature in which, why is the timing now,
Yeah.
versus this must have been happening for a while, and it was happening for a while. So you also chose to run again for the election. You could have stepped aside at that point as well,
Right.
knowing that now there's a process to find a new mayor
With your
that's
budget.
costing taxpayers money in order to put that election forward. So I mean, the timing is just, there is definitely something deeper happening that we may never know about. So.
There's John Tory won overwhelmingly. Like, there was really no other candidate that would have won. So
Insane.
clearly the data shows that Toronto would, I think, likely support him through this. He would have gotten, a lot of hate and backlash from it, but I think he would have still made it through.
So why do you think he stepped down?
Maybe that's what it is. He is an older guy. Maybe he just didn't want to deal with it and just wanted to get forgotten by the rest of society.
Older
And
guys love power, though.
That's true.
That is true.
That is
Like
that is-
all the
Maybe
guys
he
in
needs to do
power
a
are
job.
old.
Like, how long is he
Gonna
been in the
cover
job?
that book.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, guys in power. But like, how long was he in the job? Like 10 years? I want to say like 8. It must be under
Quite a
10
while.
years.
Yeah.
When did Rob Ford?
He came after Rob Ford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So it's been a while. So maybe
Yeah.
he's just sick and tired of the job. Like that could also be part of it.
But he was always like well respected.
yeah.
Well liked, well respected, because he comes from a well-off family. So bribing a politician was never going to be a thing in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Like, and just like very much like creating opportunities for Toronto is his main goal, right? So
And back to the point of him getting through the backlash. He's also he has a lot of political allies. Provincially, the federal the provincial government with Doug Ford, huge ally of John Tory. So just another reason why it's so surprising that he resigned.
Was there not, when the Ford government kind of rezoned the municipal councillors, like the number of municipal councillors, was that something that Tory liked? I actually don't know.
That's a good question.
I feel like that would have been,
I don't think he pushed back against it.
because he's mayor, right? Who cares?
He's mayor and
Easier to
he's
control.
conservative leaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his power base, like, do you think that they care that they care probably because he's more unelectable, right? And they don't want to be associated with someone who has done morally dubious things, right? But do you think that they're going to desert him?
Punish him. Yeah.
Do you think
I
that?
don't think so.
Yeah. Do you think that mayors have political bases in cities? I don't know. I personally, I mean, I'm a Torontonian, and I don't feel allegiance to any candidate. They're pretty mayors, as the job is pretty. It's a pretty vanilla job. It should be a vanilla job. You're mostly responsible for
Streets,
property taxes, snow plow removal, snow removal.
Yeah, it's
But
not
I think,
social
like-
policy.
Exactly.
But I think when Rob Ford ran, everybody wrote him off, and nobody understood that he had a strong base, like a super strong base. That would, like, if you look at his results, it's like Etobicoke, North York, Scarborough all voted Rob Ford in.
Wow.
And if you go there now, like you go to Scarborough residents will say over and over, I want Rob Ford as mayor. Like even after his death, there's like this affinity that he has in Scarborough and in North York and Etobicoke. Because the thing with the city of Toronto is that, so growing up in Scarborough, it's like we pay taxes on streetcars that never service Scarborough ever. And like the same bus that runs in my neighborhood where I grew up is the same bus there. It's never upgraded. We've never had better service. So a lot of people from Scarborough feel like, okay, like we're paying all these taxes and so what? And now here comes a mayor who's like, by the way, I'm going to put Scarborough first. I'm going to increase like.
He gets it. He's from Etobicoke.
He's from Etobicoke,
He
so
totally
same
understands the
so
thought process behind it.
yeah, so there definitely is a base. I think Tory appeals to both the burbs and the city, which is unique. We've never kind of seen that. We've usually had like city-centric mayors, and burbs like really don't factor into that. And then of course you do have like left, quote unquote, left-leaning, more higher property taxes, things like that, and then more centrist. It's interesting to hear Doug Ford on Tory because he's like, Toronto's going to get this lefty mayor and the city's going to pay for it. It's like, it's so odd. Like, you think he'd just stay out of it and just be like, you guys figure it out.
I don't think you stay out of it personally. Toronto ultimately is the center of the world, center of the universe for the province of Ontario,
Country of Canada.
the country of Canada.
For sure.
So the mayor of Toronto is arguably, you know,
Very powerful person.
very powerful person, very close to power in relations to Doug Ford.
20% of the
So-
economy.
Exactly. So I think
Yeah.
it definitely matters to have someone on your side.
Yeah.
Because it can definitely alter the path forward.
Okay, so how did Rob Ford survive the political scandals that he did, and which were crazy, like international media attention, American media, you know, they had him on the Tonight Show or whatever. And what John Tory has done, just from a purely like nonpartisan perspective, a consensual affair with a 30-year-old staffer, seems to me to be less scandalous than smoking crack as the mayor. So why, like, and Rob Ford never stepped down. He kind of owned it. It was a while ago now. I don't quite remember all the details, but I remember it didn't tank him.
But I think the key difference is that it went to the court of public opinion, right? In this case, he chose to step down on his own. And the news that it was happening and that he was stepping down came together versus that it was happening and then you wait for the reaction, right?
So why'd he step down voluntarily?
I mean, to Chris's point, though, I mean, it's kind of strategic. He kind of, and Manisha's point, he escaped all the backlash, still got to push through his budget,
Yeah.
right? And left, and, you know, in another month, he's going to be forgotten.
And he could run again. You know, I think in a year's time, people might be like, okay. I would actually interestingly.
That's an interesting point, actually.
I would love to know, like, do a poll with Torontonians to see, like, would you vote John Tory back into office if you were to run right now? I think the majority of Torontonians would probably say yes, because I can't think of anyone.
I
who's
don't know anyone else, honestly.
So who wants him out then?
I think the better question is, why did he resign? Why did he not say, like, hey, I had an affair. I'm going to leave it up to council and the court of public opinion to determine if I step down. In a week or two's time, I'm going to make that decision based on what I'm hearing.
I think it makes sense that he resigned to an extent. I mean, he blew up the news cycle in Canada. He was all over it. Front page everywhere.
Till another balloon comes along.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Unidentified object.
UFO.
Seriously, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, he voluntarily resigned. But obviously his calculation was, I need to resign. He didn't want to resign.
Right.
Why would you be mayor if you're going to resign? So presumably he wanted to be mayor while he was having this affair. So he calculated that there's a group or a voter base or whatever that wants him to resign, or it's like, it's going to get nasty if I don't. So I'm curious to know, like, what was his political calculation? I got to resign.
I mean, he still has a family, you know, a wife. I'm sure he has kids, grandkids, whatever. They would also have to go through that.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's something you can, you know, that's a serious decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to Chris's point, I think that's actually a great next prediction, that he'll take some time to step down, maybe a year or two, and then he is going to win by a landslide, I think, if he chooses to run again after some time has passed.
For sure, yeah.
Is there up and comers like in the municipal political space? I actually don't know.
There's been there've been a few MPPs that have said that they were interested, but you actually have to resign as a member to then put your name forward.
Yeah.
Like Jennifer Keysmat is always a name that's thrown around, and a few others, but there's no front runner right now, right? That's going to take some time. Yeah.
Yeah, and many times, you know, you get Toronto centric. Like Jennifer Keysmat's all about the city. John Tory, Rob Ford were able to go out to the burbs and rally support. And I don't know, it's going to be tough to replace a mayor of a mega city that can understand the issues of the city, but also understand like Etobicoke, North York, Scarborough. I mean, they're different worlds, like totally different worlds.
Who was the mayor before Doug Ford? Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
Rob Ford, sorry.
David Miller. So
Did he have a scandal?
No, but he was very left-leaning. So our taxes were really high. There were garbage strikes. So there was a lot. So he created this environment where people were like, I don't want to pay higher taxes. I want my garbage collected at a regular interval. And then Rob Ford comes along and says, okay, we're going to privatize garbage collection. I think east or west of Yonge. I think it's east of Yonge. And people were like up in arms against that, but we haven't had a garbage strike since then.
Have you seen The Sopranos, though?
No.
I love The Sopranos.
Love The Sopranos. You don't want to have private garbage services.
No, yeah,
It's a vehicle for corruption,
Sure.
according to The
Exactly.
Sopranos.
it is. I mean, it has been. It not that it is. It has been
Right.
in the past. Not with Rico though.
We don't have Rico, though, do we here?
I'm not sure if we have
Or
Rico, but
equivalent?
We must have something equivalent. I would hope so. Otherwise, how I'm assuming there's not a lot of criminal activity in the garbage business in Toronto, but I'm not sure.
It is a dirty business.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. That's interesting, though. It'll be interesting. I was curious that he resigned immediately and he did not wait for.
Yeah, I mean, usually
that
these
to me
guys
is a
fight
bit-
a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Just to test the waters. Like, this is the thing that shocked me the most. It's like he just immediately went down.
Yeah.
To your point, I think that's a great point. Maybe we're thinking of him as just a political robot. Maybe the human side was just like you said, like, oh my God, like a public scandal with my kids. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just felt that legitimate shame and was like, I can't do it. That to me, okay, that's legitimate. But if it wasn't that, I want to know why he made the political calculation to step down.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the mayor of Toronto, especially with the strong mayor powers, it's a pretty big role, and I don't know if the provincial government will take it away from him for the next person if it's not someone they agree with. They can do that, but I'm not sure if they will.
So the provincial government can, kick a mayor out?
Not kick a mayor out, but take away their strong mayor powers. There's only a few cities in Ontario, I think, that actually have strong mayor powers. It might be Toronto.
And
I think
what's
Ottawa.
What's
Maybe
the strong?
Ottawa.
What's the strong mayor power?
They can override like council decisions, I think, right?
Yeah, specific council decisions.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why John Tory stayed in, passed his budget, and then pieced out,
Hmm.
right? Just
Yeah.
to ram it through. So that's probably where the protesters were like,
So they can't like impeach a mayor,
pretty much.
the council.
Pretty much.
So who's throwing those eggs?
Yeah.
Legitimate question.
You're really concerned about those eggs.
No,
Maybe
I
it was
mean,
you,
me too.
Andrew.
More so as a metaphor for the hatred against it. Like, who's throwing eggs?
I mean, you have to go to the store. You have to buy eggs. You're probably going to a store in the
Inflation.
city of Toronto, so they're super expensive eggs.
Yeah.
That's true. It could be the
Any
grocery store.
disgruntled citizen that has to pay rent. I don't know.
But
There's a lot of disgruntled citizens.
But seriously, who's so upset? Like, what group? Maybe this was a one-off individual, but maybe it was just someone who represented the anger or disillusionment that a group has. Like, who is the metaphorical egg throwers?
Yeah, that's a good question. It could be like political plants. People who have like,
Could be.
I'll pay you $100 to go throw eggs at John Tory's.
Is that legal?
I mean, no, it's not. But like, not including the eggs. You have to buy your eggs on your own. But yeah, there could be things because I can't imagine people hate John Tory enough to do that.
To throw eggs. I just thought that was visually like shocking. Like
I think there's some people that hate John Tory. I mean, there's
but
a
they
lot
should
of
be throwing eggs at him. 3
During
weeks ago, a
his-
month
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Why now
I mean,
are they throwing
a lot of
eggs?
people that were because John Tory kind of let the whole homeless encampment situation during COVID ride like that was
But
allowed.
that's fine. Throw
and-
eggs for that reason. But like now,
Right
those
now,
eggs
yeah.
seem to be for his philandering. That's what those eggs were
Yeah.
from his cheating.
Guess his
Imagine it was
wife.
John Tory throwing it out.
Yeah, it's his wife.
Oh.
That makes
That's going on the Insta reel. For sure. Going on the Insta